I've been debating all day what I was going to title or how I was going to introduce this video, and originally I admit I wanted to title this video the top 10 things bad trainers do, because this is a very sensitive topic for me. But I agree that this puts a negative spin on things, and this channel is about positive energy. So I'm going to title this video the top 10 things good trainers do. So without further ado, let's get after it. What's up, everybody? Today's topic is going to be the top 10 things that good trainers do. And yes, I've had to say that about 10 times until I got it right. But anyhow, so these topics are not, listed in order, in chronological order from, less bad to worse or whatever, but you're gonna want to stick around for the top 3 because they are the main things that I think will really make a difference in the long run for you as a rider or as a trainer. But all of those are equally as important, and some of them more than others, depending on the situation that you are in at the time or the type of person that you are. So starting out with number 10, something that you'll see good trainers do frequently is rest their horses between training periods or training sessions, okay, or exercises and drills. Very important. As riders, we don't feel the fatigue that our horses feel, through their exercise. We can feel it when they're getting tired, but once you feel that, it's very important that you stop what you're doing as soon as possible and let your horse's body oxygenate themselves, okay? So it's the same as for us going to the gym, especially if you haven't been to the gym in a while. So when you're gonna start working out, if it's going to be very, very important for you to do, lighter work, short sessions with good rest periods in between. Otherwise, you're going to be terribly sore the next day, and you're still probably going to be sore the next day. And this is something to always take into account, how our horses feel, depending on the exercises that we're doing. Sometimes you have a new horse come into training, and you don't know what kind of shape it's in or what's, the recent history of its training and what it's been doing. So you're going to want the horse to do things your way, and you're going to be showing it things, and maybe the first day they'll feel like your first day at the gym, hey, I can do this really good, until you wake up the next morning and then you can hardly walk. Well, our horses may feel the same way. Well, the best way to avoid that, and even with horses that are in good shape, heck, my CrossFit coach, every time I go there, he's like, oh, sore here, sore there. I'm like, you're a CrossFit coach, you do this all day, how can you be sore? But he does get sore because you use your body or a muscle that you haven't used a certain way or whatever, and then it gets sore. And that's okay, because once, if a horse is in good shape, but some part of the body are mildly sore, then you warm them up properly into it, they'll be fine, the same as we are. But it's very important to take that into consideration. Short sessions, pause in between, and it's also good for the mind, because I think that if you're trying to train something and teach something to your horse, you have to give it a chance to assimilate. You have to give it a chance to take in what you've done, and give him the proper time to think about it before you start it over or you move on to the next thing. Now number 9 is going to be to reward the horses. You'll see good trainers often reward their horses very clearly with a body sign, a release of the reins, or a good pat on the neck or the butt to tell the horse that it's done what it did really well. Or sometimes you can reward just a simple small effort, even if the maneuver was not executed perfectly, but you felt that there was an effort in the right direction, the horse tried. You have to reward that in order to generate confidence and build your horse's desire to succeed and do well for you. And I think that if you never reward, even if you're not punishing, you're just trucking along and training and riding, but you don't take the time to make your horse feel like it's doing what you're asking it to do well, or it's trying to do it well, then you're going to be stuck in this vicious circle where your horse is never really sure what to do to make you happy. And you may be lucky and have a really good, willing-minded horse, but the ones that need a little more encouragement or more justification as to what it is that you expect out of them and what's the end goal, for you to spend all this time in the arena doing all these exercises and drills, well, I think that rewarding your horse and making them feel really good about themselves as often as possible is going to be a very critical thing in training and riding, and something that I recommend that you do as often as possible. Number 8 is going to be to make a plan. Structure your ride, okay? And once you go in there, after 30 seconds, your plan may go right out the window, or throughout your session, something may occur where you'll work something on or have to work on something that you had not planned whatsoever. But if you are really confident in your program in general, then this is a plan in and of itself, and you'll always have that to fall back on. But going in with a plan, knowing that you'll be warming up your horses in accordance with the things that you feel or plan on training on that day, is going to be starting off on the right foot, rather than going in there and improvising and not really warming up your horse in the way that is going to benefit what you're going to work on that day, and setting yourself up for failure. So it's a very simple thing, but it's something that makes a very big difference in the long run, and it's something that I think really professional trainers that or good riders that have a very good and clear idea of what their program is can't afford to walk in there without giving it too much thought and being able to adapt. But I think as we learn, it's always good to have a really good idea what today the plan is going to be, and having the ability to adapt along the way. Number 7 is going to be something more of a rider type of mistake that I often see that you don't see good trainers do, and that's looking down into the horse's shoulder, pulling down with your hands and sitting on your thighs and just leaning your shoulder forwards. And this is a common mistake that I see, because yes, we're all working on lifting and directing the shoulders in the direction that we want to go. But in order for us to be able to do that, you have to have, number 1, a really good idea of where you're headed, and this has to be clear in your mind, even if you're looking down, looking at your horse when you're training, which is okay to look at your horse, but you need to have a very clear image of where you're going. So looking up and staying a quarter of a circle ahead of your horse at all times is going to be very beneficial, and that is going to be the posture you want to have: elevated shoulders and sitting on your pockets, and really staying away from this area where we're trying to lift the shoulder. You need to free this up and bring that energy into the horse's body. But too often I see people leaning forward, pulling downwards, and just looking down here, trying to get their horse in a certain position that benefits nothing in the end, because all you do is just concentrate all of that energy right here when we're trying to grab it from there and transfer it to the hind end. And so this is going to be something that you just don't see good trainers do, and that I recommend that you put a lot of emphasis on as a rider, is to make sure that you look up, know where you're going, and point always your upper body in the direction that you're going, sit on your pockets and free up this area. It's going to make everything else a lot easier to do. Number 6 is going to be the breath. And I call the breath, and if you followed my videos, you've heard me talk about this before, but this is something that I put a lot of emphasis on, and I always think about it, but I think that every good trainers do that. They may not think about it the same way that I think about it, but I know that they do it, and that's waiting for your horse to take that breath. And I promise, if you go out there tomorrow, ride your horse, and every time that you're gonna do anything, whether you do an exercise or a drill or a maneuver, and then you stop and drop the reins, wait 3 or 4 seconds, I promise that your horse is going to go okay, and it's going to take a deep breath and exhale, and that is the indicator that you're ready to move on to the next thing. This is what tells me that my horse assimilated what we've just done and is ready to move on. And it's very important, before correcting your horse if it made a mistake, or before moving on to the next thing or asking something else, even if they did the thing right, always wait for that. This is always a good indicator that you're ready to move on to the next thing, that this part is done, the horse has recorded, and you're ready to move on to the next thing. So it's a very simple thing, but makes a very big difference down the road. Number 5 is going to be to adapt to different types of horses. This is what really good trainers will do naturally, and sometimes even think about it in the way of changing spurs, changing bit to fit the horse. It's very important. I know we all have this one bit that just really works well for us. It's something that we're very comfortable and we're successful with on most horses, but it's very important to not always work on making the horse work for a bit, but actually find the bit that works for the horse. So it may be, not convenient to stop mid-session and go inside and fetch another bit or two in order to have a better result. So we just keep on working and keep on struggling if we're struggling, and sometimes to no avail. So I think that it's very good if things are not working out really good to maybe go and change spurs, use a different rowel, a different length of shank, or a different bit, use your legs in a different way, and I think that it's very important to every horse is different, so I think that it's very good to adapt to every horse and know how your horse is and what you need to do and how you need to set yourself up for success and to really bring the best out of each horse by adapting the way that you interact and the way that you prepare yourself. Now this is where it's getting really interesting. Now this one is number 4, and number 4 is something that I think is very, very important, and that's going to be to judge very accurately if your horse, made a mistake or did something wrong intentionally or not intentionally, because sometimes horses can do something wrong because they may have been they may have brain farted, or they may have gotten scared or whatever, and it's very important if the horse, especially if the horse got scared and did something wrong because he got scared, to not punish that. Never punish fear, because then it makes the horse afraid to make a mistake, and this is where that it's very hard to control this type of negative energy in the horse's body when they're afraid to make a mistake. So what you really want to be sure to do is give your horses the benefit of the doubt at least the first 2 times of executing something, even if they know what it is, and they should know what it is, because there may be many factors that can come into play as to why they didn't do it right. It could be a physical malfunction, a shoe issue, it could be something in your adjustment of your tack, it could be anything, or it could be just, like I said, a simple brain fart, or the horse could have gotten scared, and I think that it's very important to give your horse the benefit of the doubt. Just set yourself up again and ask again, and when you know and you are 100% sure that your horse missed because he said no, or he got really plain lazy and just didn't even try, then you need to make your consequences very clear and effective, and ask again, and fall back to the first things we talked about, and then as soon as you get the effort and you get what you want, you reward, so that it's very black and white, in a way that it's okay to make mistakes, it's okay to miss, and I'm not going to punish you every time that you miss, but I'm not going to tolerate any lack of effort in the work. Now, number 3 is going to be something that good trainers don't do, and that's overdoing it. Now, I like to go back to the golden rule in horse training, that is, if you can obtain 1% every day, then in 100 days you'll have 100%. And I think that is the truest thing ever. And some horses, 1% every day may not be the same as another horse's 1% every day. And some horses can be a green horse at 6 months training and perform much better than one that is also a green horse but that has 12 or 18 months of training. And so I think what defines a green horse is not the timeline of which of the amount of training that they have and for how long, but it's just where they're at in their training. And some horses evolve faster and learn faster than others. So I think that it's good to set yourself a goal. There's this competition coming in 3 months or in 6 months that I want to compete at, so that's what you're working towards too. But then as you're getting closer to that competition, if this horse is ready but has less training, and this horse is not ready and has more training, then it's important to not overdo it on this horse in order to make it to make this goal. Just set yourself a new goal down the road and prepare yourself and be ready for this goal. And that leads me to another thing that I like to tell myself, because it seems like every year when we change year, the horse goes from a 2-year-old to a 3-year-old, or a 3-year-old to a 4-year-old, and so on. And it seems like our expectations change. But more often than not, more dramatically anyways than the overnight period that simply occurred from changing from one year to another. But now if a horse is a 3-year-old turning 4, well, now we're riding them like 4-year-olds that are not doing well or that are green, and so we're more demanding than the year before where they were just a 3-year-old doing really good. So I think that I think that if you can just adopt the fact that when you change year in the first 2 to 3 months of that year, continue to ride this horse like a horse of the prior year that's doing really well, rather than like the horse of the new year that's not doing well. And I think that that's gonna just make all of the little things that we discussed before, from taking a little bit more of your time and being a little bit more rewarding to your horses, and keep their confidence level a little higher, rather than shattering it down by just all of a sudden raising your expectations tenfold just because you change year overnight. Now, number 2 is going to be something that I think that we're all victim of at some point in time, but it's something that you will notice good trainers either hide very well or can really control very well. And that's something that is very important, and that's getting angry or not getting angry. So, you know, in the performance horse world, when you have, you know, customers that pay you and have expectations, and you make promises because of an event coming up, and you've got that pressure building up, the horse is not cooperating or is not doing good for whatever reason, and then that just, you know, that just puts pressure on you, and sometimes can make you angry, and letting the anger get the best of you is going to be the number 1 recipe for failure. And I think that this is what you can see the top professionals, you know, which are competing at the highest level of any discipline, which have, you know, in a way the most to lose, seem to be the ones that can control that anger much better than anybody else. And I think that we can all learn from that. And so my advice to you is to, whenever you feel that anger build up, do whatever you can to stop whatever you're doing at the time, and realign and control that body energy inside you, in order to not channel that down into your horse and cause your horse, you know, to be fearful of you or scared, which again, these are all the kind of things that never lead to anything good. So controlling your body energy to remain passive, and if you feel that pressure get to you, or you feel that anger, to stop whatever you're doing, take a breath, and only resume when you've got control over that energy. Well, now we're down to number 1, and number 1 is going to be the most important one, in the way that it's something that is so bad in a way. And that's something that just good trainers don't do, but they don't even think about not doing it. It's just something that is just natural in your body, and that's what I call pulling and kicking at the same time. Now, in training horses, in order to get our horses to really drive from behind and channel their energy through their diagonal and lift their shoulders and really learn to use their body, we need to use legs and we need to use our hands, okay? But if you wonder how they teach horses to rear up in movies, well, usually that's by applying a lot of hand and leg pressure at the same time. It's a little bit like taking your car and putting it in full gas with the hind wheels while you forward, while you have it in reverse full gas with the front wheels. Well, what's going to happen is that both are going to collide together, and the middle is going to shoot up right into the sky, and it's going to explode. And it's the same thing that happens with a horse. So when you see a horse that just grabs the bit and jumps or leaps in the air or rear up, well, that's because this horse probably is getting too much pressure from the hand and leg at the same time without any outlet for that pressure, so the energy builds up until it explodes. So it's very, very important that in some cases with horses that are a little bit more feely or lazy or whatever, that have a lot of energy anyhow, in order to and you may need to use, you know, more leg, and you need to be aggressive with your leg at some point in time, or you may need to pull a little harder or be a little more aggressive with your hand. But it's very important to naturally and instinctively be able to separate your upper body from your lower body. The harder that you're going to lose your lower body, the more light and passive your upper body needs to remain, and the harder you're going to use your hands, the more steady and relaxed your lower body and your legs need to be. You can be firmly around your horse and still be there. I'm not saying go limp, but it's very important to be able to really split, like the higher the intensity goes on one, the lower the intensity needs to go on the other. And this is how you're always going to avoid getting that energy to just really build up and explode in an ugly fashion. And so that's something, again, that I consider very dangerous, because this is something that I see you know, trainers that often have issues with their horses, and it's often because I see too much tension coming from the hands and the legs at the same time, and that never amounts to anything good. But then when you watch really good trainers going around, you see that that they are very effective with their legs and very effective with their hands, but you never see them use both hard at the same time, and this is why that they can, you know, afford to be a little bit more firm with either of without the horse getting worried about it. Guys, that's it for me today. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like, as it tells the YouTube algorithm that this video is worth showing other people and helps me grow this community. And if you want to have the full-length video series on this particular topic, where I touch every single of those topics more in depth, you can visit the Comfort Zone Horse Training video series. I will put the link in the description below. And once again, thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video. Cheers.